Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this RedGamingTech.com video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped up the past 24 or so hours. And we're going to start things with a patent discovered from Microsoft, which would appear to be an Xbox-like controller that will attach to a smart device. This is also an article, so if you do prefer the written word, you can find it, of course, linked in the description of this video. So, remember back at E3, Microsoft announced many details of their next generation Xbox. It's codenamed Scarlet thus far, and is capable of 4K at high frame rates, supports ray tracing, features a Zen 2 CPU, an RDNA based GPU, and also very fast storage. But that is not the only things that Microsoft are working on. They are heavily pushing XCloud, which is their streaming service to rival Stadia. So there are a couple of things we've heard regarding this. The first of which is that they will be pushing towards Android, which we'll be speaking about more in a moment. But also there are reports from Forot.com and also Windows Central that the company are working on a lighter next generation Xbox. Details of this are scarce, and that's putting it mildly, but supposedly it will handle basic processing locally, while the remainder of the processing, let's say the heavy graphics and that type of stuff, that will be handled on the cloud. The purpose behind that is pretty simple. It's supposedly reducing the latency compared to how Google are handling things with Stadia. But obviously that's great for the living room, but not so great with, well, mobile. So to handle this side of things, Microsoft are supposedly pushing things such as Android. And Phil Spencer actually commented on this. I believe it was last year this interview took place, but I'll read you out the quote. When you think about reaching a customer with content where their only compute device could be an Android phone, you think about what are the ways that the person pays for content today. You need to make sure that we are in a world class of free-to-play content, but we also look at subscription at a much lower barrier way for customers to build a library of content. So we built Game Pass, and it started on console, and it will come to the PC. This interview, as I said, is a little bit old. Game Pass is already on PC now, and will eventually come to every device. So we use that as a flywheel that we have with our customers on an Xbox to start the growth in Xbox Game Pass, but as someone sitting back and looking at the longer term view of where our business is going, you should look at this as a business model where we think to scale to billions of people, not hundreds of million people, like retail. Basically what Phil is saying is that he will let you play Xbox games on a toaster if that's what you want. He doesn't particularly care how you play the games, but as long as you're signed up to the Xbox Game Pass, he is happy to take your cash, which works really well, of course, for Microsoft's business plan. That isn't to say that they don't want you to buy the next generation of Xbox, but they are not totally invested in you buying the next generation Xbox. As for the controller itself, while the patent does not explicitly state Xbox anywhere, you can certainly get the Xbox vibes just from looking at the images. I mean, it has X, Y, A and B for a start, plus the D-pad and analog sticks look very Xbox-like in their location. But, furthermore, you can literally see the Xbox logo, which could probably be a button. It looks like a button to me. There's also been a rendering that was created by Sarang Chef, hopefully I've pronounced that correctly, from Yanko Design. And he actually created several mock-ups for this Xbox-like controller for a smartphone. It looks kind of cool. It looks a little bit Switch-like, perhaps a little bigger on each side. Well, actually quite a bit bigger on each side. And furthermore, it looks kind of like some other controllers that you can get for from cell phones. Some of them, obviously, the controller kind of sits at the bottom and then has like an arm which would attach to the cell phone, and the cell phone rests above it. Others do have this like split kind of controller design, But either way, it looks kind of cool, and I will be curious to see how streaming works on a smartphone. Obviously, if you have crappy signal, you're definitely not going to have the best gaming experience. But I think when it takes off in a couple of years, when Microsoft do announce the new Xbox in its entirety, it'll be very interesting to see how this generation, or next generation, I guess, progresses. And as for the release date for this, well, we have Gamescom in just a couple of weeks, or just about a week, excuse me. But it's also possible that we will hear zero, bupkis, and nada about this until closer to the Xbox Scarlet's release date. You can also find a video that I've created on an Xbox Scarlet, All You Need to Know. And so if you want to check that analysis out, you can search for it on the channel, and we go into the Xbox Scarlet specs, an analysis of potential memory configurations, and much more stuff besides. Now we're going to move over to High Bandwidth Memory 2E. This is actually a new standard that has been created by SK Hynix. And they are not the first to tweak and tuck the HBM2 standard. We actually saw Samsung do it with Flashbolt, but despite the fact that this name isn't quite as cool sounding as Flashbolt, the actual technology itself is pretty impressive. So just to clarify things here, HBM2E, I'm going to call it 2E for the remainder of this video, is not a huge update to HBM2. It's not like HBM3. Instead, the best way to describe this, and it's not technically accurate, but it's a bit like GDDR5 versus GDDR5X. So it's an enhancement to the specification, or I guess another way you could look at it is the PS4 versus PS4 Pro. But that isn't to take anything away from the standard, it is quite an update. While up until recently 1.9 Gbps was considered fast for HBM2, and in fact very difficult to manufacture, this, when it releases next year, will be able to clock up to 3.6 Gbps per pin, which means, because HBM2 and HBM2E has 1024 pins per stack, each stack is capable of 460 gigabytes per second of bandwidth, which is just nuts. So if you have multiple stacks, it means a 4-stack configuration go up to 2 terabytes per second. Well, actually it's 1.84 terabytes per second to be exact. SK Hynix asserts that their memory can clock up to 3.6 Gbps per pin, and because High Bandwidth Memory 2, as well as the 2E standard, features 1024 pins, this means one stack, has a total memory bandwidth of 460 gigabytes per second. Or, if you have 4 stacks, well, that's almost 2 terabytes per second memory bandwidth, 1.84 terabytes to be precise. Now, I just want to be very clear here. This is great for data centers. This is great for high-performance computing, artificial intelligence research, whatever. But if you're thinking that this is going to be found in the next GeForce cards that you're going to plonk into your PC, well, no. This is definitely not going to be something that's cheap. HBM2 is very expensive, and I don't think this is going to be any cheaper. But while this is a premium product for data centers and other such usage scenarios which do require every little bit of memory bandwidth that they can get their hands on, this will be an amazing product. And now on to several Intel leaks. This is also an article, so you can find it, of course, linked in the description of this very video. Intel recently have achieved some level of volume for its shipments of 10nm processors, namely Ice Lake, although currently, of course, they are only found in lower power devices such as 2-in-1s. But Ice Lake uses Sunny Cove as well as Generation 11 graphics, but does improve IPC quite a bit. It's about 18% over the older Skylake architecture, but we already know through their roadmap that there are a couple of other cores that they're working on. The successor to Sunny Cove is Willow Lake, which, among other things, sports a cache redesigned, new transistor optimization and, quote, security features. And then after that is Golden Cove, which says that it has ST performance improvements, AI performance improvements, which, don't forget, Sunny Cove and after that have really focused on artificial intelligence. Golden Cove also features improvements in networking and further enhancements to security. Willow Cove has also had several instructions leak. AVX512, MOV-DIRI, and SHSTK instructions have leaked online, along with a couple of others. But we also have further information thanks to Phantom Canyon. A concept image has appeared on the Chip Hell forums, and what we have here is Intel's Tiger Lake, which does, of course, naturally use the Willow Cove CPU architecture, and it does seem to confirm that we will be seeing PCIe Generation 4 in this particular CPU. You might also see the discrete GPU is listed as a 1660 Ti or a RTX 2060. You shouldn't focus too much on that. It really is meaningless, other than to say that that's the performance tier of cards that we will be seeing in the system in a couple of years' time. So it will be the equivalent of, let's say, an RTX 2060, whatever that is, when this launches. So it'll either, of course, be the RTX 3060 or 4060 or whatever, but more likely it's probably going to be Intel's own discrete graphics when this thing launches. We also see confirmation of two M.2 drives. Of course, that's Generation 4, support for NVMe and SATA. There's also USB 3.1 Generation 2, a couple of DRAM slots. They are DDR4 up to 64 gigabytes in capacity, a Thunderbolt 3 Type C port, and also it's cooled with a custom vapor chamber. Also, very excitingly, and I know that all of you are going to be the most excited about this out of everything I've talked about in this entire video, it also has customizable RGB lighting. So, that's pretty awesome. But there are a few other bits regarding Intel before we finish. The first is that Tiger Lake has also been spotted in the LLVM/Clang compiler. This was discovered by the website forenix.com. There's not a whole bunch of information about that, but what we do have now is that it's actually being targeted by Clang, which is obviously a good sign that the CPU is currently being tested and engineering samples and all of that stuff. But we also have something a little more solid, as well-known leaker Tim Apisak has discovered an i9 9900KS Firestrike result. This was run on an RTX 2080 Ti, but the 9900KS really is very close in the specification to the i9 9900K, albeit with higher clock frequencies. So the 9900K has a 3.6 GHz base frequency and can turbo up to 4.7 GHz with all of its cores, whereas the KS hits 4 GHz for the base frequency, so that's 400 MHz plus, and also can turbo for all cores up to 5 GHz, so basically that's 300 MHz additional clock frequency. You also should not confuse the KS with the other processor that sounds very similar, the i9 9900KF. So the difference between the KS and the KF is that the KF is basically the 9900K, but does not have an iGPU enabled. So the iGPU is disabled. This basically means that if, for example, you want to upgrade your graphics card and you're selling graphics card A while you're waiting for graphics card B to arrive at your home, you can run your system just fine with the iGPU. In fact, we've done a little bit of testing on that, and older games actually run pretty well, like Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, plus others just run perfectly fine, albeit not at like 4K or anything, but you know, you can certainly play something like Counter-Strike just fine without the best frame rate, but it's doable. It's also quite nice as well because you have features like QuickSync, and also it's kind of handy if you are trying to do fault testing with your system. So, you know, the whole why isn't my system booting, take everything out other than the CPU, motherboard, and one RAM slot kind of thing. So it's also kind of handy there. So you do not have an iGPU with the KF, although the pricing's basically identical, which kind of is a shame, whereas the KS still has the same UHD 630 iGPU as the i9 9900K, so there's no change there. Anyway, I think that's just about it for this particular video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, then the normal stuff, like, share, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.